Coming through today, the Iraqi Prime Minister has accused neighbouring Turkey of being the main conduit of ISIL's oil smuggling business.
We hope for international support to prevent terrorists entering Syria and Iraq and to stop Daesh smuggling of petrol, among other things, including Iraqi antiquities. Most of this smuggling, including that of terrorists, frankly, happens via Turkey.
Well, it seems there's a lot of money to be made doing it too. The terrorist organisation is making big bucks from the crude. According to new research, ISIL generates an estimated $80 million a month. In fact, oil makes up about 43% of that. The rest comes from confiscation, drug smuggling and donations. The White House has known about the terrorist oil trade for over a year. So Artis Ganichikhan next looks into why Washington seems to have stalled when it comes to cutting off the terrorists' main source of income.
The State Department says the U.S. targeting of ISIL's oil revenue has not changed, even though by many accounts the U.S. really began to attack ISIL's oil supply chain only recently. The first time the U.S. hit the trucks carrying ISIL's oil in Syria was on November 16th. U.S. officials are still grilled over what took them so long.
I remember distinctly, over a year ago, when I was, instead of a suit, I was in a uniform, speaking from a different podium, talking about, in fact, showing video and images of oil heads, collection points that coalition forces, air forces, were hitting. So this is not something we just started to focus on.
My question is why you didn't hit the trucks, the convoys, earlier.
We have not, it's not like we've never been focused on their oil revenue. It's something that we have constantly focused on.
The State Department claims the U.S. has targeted ISIL's oil business for a while. The question is how effectively. A lot of the smuggled oil is said to be going through Turkey, which is something that to this day the U.S. is reluctant to even talk about.
These are not small-scale operations that are being carried out. This is not like, smugglers with donkeys going over mountain passes or something like that. This is a huge operation that's going on. The United States is very protective about its relationship with Turkey, but at the same time, in recent weeks, it's become more and more apparent that this is going on, and the United States claims that it's fighting ISIS.
Last week, the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dunford, said over 40% of ISIL's oil revenue had been affected by U.S.-led strikes over the past month. If the case, this indicates that the U.S. really became active in hitting ISIL's oil revenue only recently, something that the State Department does not acknowledge. One reason for such an intensified effort could be that after ISIL's attacks in Lebanon, after the Paris attacks, U.S. policymakers saw ISIL could not be simply geographically contained.
ISIL's oil empire has been the main focus of Moscow's airstrikes in Syria. The Russian Defense Ministry has also published a large amount of evidence that it says lifts the lid on Turkey's role in the terrorist oil trade. We broadcast these pictures to you just in the last 24 hours. Detailed maps, satellite photos, videos of thousands of trucks heading across the border indicate three main oil smuggling routes into Turkey. Ankara has denied all the allegations. RT's In the Now show checked out the reaction to Moscow's revelations.
Alarm and surprise. The media is shocked Russia claims Turkey is supporting Islamic State oil market.
Vladimir Putin keeps saying that Turkey is aiding ISIS. Is that true?
No alarms, no surprises. Mainstream media, stop making it seem like the connection is something new. Our friends at The Guardian were reporting on it 6 months ago. They, in July, almost ran a top line on will the Turks now agree to U.S. demands to cease all clandestine dealings with Islamic State, clearly pointing out how Turkish clients were propping up ISIS oil. Business Insider posted in plain sight, senior Western official, links between Turkey and ISIS are now undeniable. And way before that, U.S. Vice President Joe Biden was on to Turkey. Only forget oil. He accuses them of directly helping ISIS gain ground.
Our allies in the region were our largest problem in Syria. The Turks were great friends, and I have a great relationship with Erdogan. What did they do? They poured hundreds of millions of dollars and tens, thousands of tons of weapons into anyone who would fight against Assad, except that the people who were being supplied were al-Nusra and al-Qaeda extremist elements of jihadis coming from other parts of the world.
He had to say sorry for putting those flames on the fire, but it's still raging, and someone's gonna get burned.
Coming up very soon, we'll tell you about a flesh-eating disease that's spreading across Syria. We've got a report on the outbreak of the illness and why some experts say Islamic State is to blame for its spread. Art pieces from a Dutch museum stolen almost a decade ago surfaced in Ukraine, and the Dutch side insisting they be returned.
To everyone in Ukraine who has possession of our stolen treasures or has any knowledge about the whereabouts, I want to say these are not pieces of art for you to have, nor to sell. To everyone in Ukraine who says that they want to defend European values, I would like to say make sure that these pieces of art return to the rightful owner, and that's the West Fries Museum in Hoorn in the Netherlands.
We've brought this up at the highest level with the Ukrainians. I believe they are taking it very seriously. We're going to try and ensure it returns to the West Fries Museum.
So what's the story here? Well, the pieces in question are 24 paintings and 70 items of silverware dating back to the 17th and 18th centuries. Seems they were stolen back in 2005. The combined value of the paintings is estimated at around €500,000. However, the people who contacted the Dutch embassy in Kiev saying they possess the art pieces demanded a finder's fee of €5 million. The museum then sent an art expert to Ukraine to try and negotiate a better deal. How did that go on? Well, we spoke to him.
I've been asked by the Dutch Museum to negotiate with the people in the Ukraine who said that they have the paintings, the stolen paintings from Holland in their possession. So they asked me to go there to Kiev and to talk to these people. I met Boris Humaniuk. He is the second in command of OUN. That's one of the voluntary battalions that is fighting in eastern Ukraine, and he told me that they had found the paintings, and he said that he wanted to offer them back to the Netherlands, but then he asked €5 million.
Arthur Brand said that he offered to pay a smaller sum in return for the paintings, but the other side refused to settle. However, he did manage to find out who it was that was holding the paintings. It seems it's a controversial figure in Ukraine's political landscape too.
We have a very large network all over the world, and our informants told us that one of the bosses of this man, this Mr. Humaniuk, is Oleg Tianobok from the right-wing extremist party Svoboda, and that he is the man who is in control of the paintings. We are 100% sure. It has been confirmed by the authorities. Also, members of the Secret Service, SBU, are involved too. It's 100% sure that people from the Secret Service have been trying to sell these paintings. And also the name of their former head, Valentin Nalyvaichenko, was mentioned also 2 times.
So in response, the former chief of the Ukrainian security service just mentioned there denies any involvement. In fact, he's called on the Dutch authorities and Interpol to investigate the case and to establish the real perpetrators. We also requested a comment from the current head of the service, but have so far got no reply. Darren McAdams from the Ron Paul Institute spoke to us and thinks the current political climate in the country provides fertile soil for murky deals in Ukraine.
Ukraine is essentially a lawless state. From the last year and a half or so, the U.S. has ignored the increasing lawlessness in Ukraine, has made all kinds of excuses for the government in Kiev. And also there's the moral hazard of Kiev believing that Washington is behind it no matter what it does, and so that emboldens authorities to take drastic steps. And you also have a government that is not in control of its oligarchs and of the thuggish businessmen who have supported the coup.
It seems that Britain is no longer